Welcome back to another episode of the Bridge the Gap podcast, powered by, you guessed it, Revenue Reimagined. Today's guest is Earl Foote, founder and CEO of Nexus IT Consultants, host of the Tech Beat podcast, and someone who's been running a values-driven GTM operation longer than most people have been in SaaS. Earl scaled Nexus from a solo consultancy into one of the top managed IT and cybersecurity providers in the country, which is super cool, but he's best known for how he leads. Character, conviction, and my favorite, zero tolerance for BS. What are you in for today? A masterclass on what happens when you don't compromise and why that is actually a go-to-market strategy. Earl, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks, Adam and Dale. Such a pleasure to be here with you guys. I really appreciate the invitation.
I mean, with me, not with him, but let's be real.
Hey, you did the best part of the show. Now we can just end your part since you did the intro.
Have fun.
I can see Earl taking his guitar out and like strumming to that walk-on music.
Hell yeah!
There you go, Adam. You're quite the spinster there. I mean, I appreciate the kind intro, but it's probably you're that's a tall order to live up to there.
I spent about 5 years in radio. If I could do one thing, it's an intro. I often say if we could just record podcasts all day long and do nothing else, I'd be a very happy person. Unfortunately, we can't do that.
You have to work for a living.
Come on, Dale, Earl, kick the show off, man.
Yeah. So impressive. The first part of the show, we'd like to talk about scaling the business without selling your soul. Is kind of like where we leave that. And so you've been running Nexus for over 2 decades. That's really rare in this day and age. Like you see a lot of people coming in and out of things. What keeps you in it, and what keeps the business growing as you're going in it, especially through these different times, through all these AI business-driven type things?
Yeah, very good questions there, Dale. You're right. I mean, there's entrepreneurship has taken on kind of what I call the churn and burn, sort of model where it's a 3 to 5 year, let's start something up, let's get it, 0 to 10 million, and let's sell it, right? And I don't discount that in any way. In fact, I deeply understand kind of the pros of that model, and having some time off. I have plenty of friends, right, that have been in B2B SaaS or other types of ventures, consumer goods and that kind of stuff. And, that like taking off 1 to 2 or 3 years in between, regenerating yourself, because we all know, like, building a business is a serious commitment, right? And having that time off in between, to kind of regenerate, get clear again, come back with some fresh ideas, and then solve some new problems. I totally, see the value in doing that sort of model. I have been a long hauler, and in fact, Dale, 27 years actually this September it will be. So almost 3 decades.
Almost 3 decades.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. Almost 3 decades.
Started at the age of 23. We've been deeply committed from the beginning to build a business with what we call heart and soul, right? Values aligned, purpose driven, mission driven type of organization, and that's really been a big part of our secret to success. Is our team believes in what we're doing because we have a mission that's larger than the sum of our parts, right? And that mission specifically is to elevate IT. And when we say that, we mean it, of course, first and foremost for our clients. Like we're committed to a world-class experience, for them across the board. In order to create that world-class experience, the predominant sort of formula I've used over the past nearly 3 decades is that rewarded, fulfilled, happy people create happy clients, and happy clients create healthy revenue, right? And so, we as leaders in this organization, and we understand and know that, that culture is leadership behavior at scale throughout the organization. So, top level leadership starts by modeling, the type of behavior that we want and the culture that we want within this organization. We are not exceptions. And that's I see that error very often. And I'm not going to be critical, but oftentimes in executive roles, we feel like we've earned a bit of a pass on, some of the the intricacies of day-to-day, interactions and duties. And we here at Nexus don't believe that. Like, we believe that we set the tone, and we set the bar. And so, we're here to set that stage of, what we're building and why we're building it and the type of environment we want to create. So we talk about,
Adam, did you hear that? You actually should be doing some work too, not just barking orders.
Listen, yes, agreed.
Yeah.
I was going to say something that you would have been able to misinterpret, so we're not going to do that.
We talk about, gentlemen, quickly, just quickly, we talk about building an environment where people can do the best work of their career here. And because, our team believes in providing that environment to each other and then really providing a world-class experience to our clients and building something extraordinary. We're aiming for the stars. Top 10 MSP, MSSP nationwide for regulated industries. That's what we're aiming for. And the team's aligned. The team shows up, right? They take care of our clients. They're aligned to grow themselves while we're growing the business, which is not easy. When you're growing at a quick pace, everybody in the organization has to grow professionally and personally at a commensurate clip, or we don't keep up with the growth curve, right? Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I love what you were saying when you talk about like making sure the people inside the organization of Nexus are actually taken care of first because they're taking care of your customers, and those customers then generate revenue for the organization. And I think sometimes there's a disconnect on, especially in an executive team, we need more customers to generate the revenue, but then they forget about the people that are actually servicing the clients that are generating the revenue. So I just love that perspective that you guys are running on.
I may have written it down.
And if Adam writes it down, he's probably going to write a post about it. So look for a post later on.
All right. Well, Adam will make you famous, I guess.
I always look for the one nugget.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's missed way too often, and it actually starts very early. So, as you said, you've been running almost 3 decades now, and it's obvious if it comes from the top that that's going to be the culture that you're driving through the organization. So, I was curious early on as you started building the organization, you started as a solopreneur. What were some of those early decisions that you made that now still are impacted on how you run things today? Like, what are like 1 or 2 things that you did early on to say, like, yes, people are important, but what in that people management side did you do early?
Yeah, really good. And I would say, Dell, early on, I wasn't nearly as adept at understanding, of course, how to operate a business, but then really how to build, really constructive, productive cultures. I was 23, right? And I didn't study business. I studied civil engineering. Started my career studying architecture, pivoted into civil engineering, then pivoted into technology, right? But there was always something that was just, core to my own personal kind of, way to show up and believe in people. And that's just it. I mean, at my core, I'm a humanitarian, right? At my core, I believe in humankind, our ability to be able to show up and do extraordinary things, our ability to grow and evolve, right? And I always, from the very beginning, when we started, hiring teams, because my brother and I started the business together. We're not in business together anymore as of 2012, but we started the business together in 1998, and we were the first 2 employees. But then, over the first 12 to 18 months, started to hire some additional employees, and we looked from the beginning for people that got what we were doing, that wanted to be involved, and aligned with purpose, not just wanted to show up and punch the clock, right? And, whose core values fit the DNA of the organization, the core values that we use to determine how we show up and behave within the organization. We looked for people that was just aligned with their inherent, kind of personality, and who wanted to have a good time, because building a business, at times can be rough, right? It can be very fun. It can be very rewarding. And there's those times where it gets a little bit challenging, right? Maybe not a little bit. It can get really challenging. And so, having people who are like, who don't, who don't get psyched out very easily, who want to show up and have fun, who want to have a positive attitude despite whatever challenges you're trying to solve, right? We always look for that stuff from the beginning, and then we just continue to build on it. And I will, I'll be the first to admit I've made several cultural errors throughout my tenure in nearly 3 decades as a founder CEO. Early stages, being too kind of bro culture, too lenient,
You and your brother, there's no HR.
Yeah, exactly, right. And a bunch of 20-something-year-old, techie guys, right? It was a very different sort of environment, but that we didn't set the bar well enough, right? And then I overcorrected.
Yeah.
And kind of, I thought I had to go from being the very lenient, likable boss to the asshole boss, right? And that wasn't the right move either. I ultimately found, I have to find the happy medium of, we have to set the bar of excellence within the organization and set expectations very high and make those very clear in terms of what we measure, why we measure it, what our purpose is behind that. And then, of course, looking for the people who want to perform that naturally, because you always want to be helping people stretch and grow. But if they're 30% the way there to where you want them to be, you're not going to get them there. If they're 70 or 80% the way there, then you're going to be able to coach those people and stretch them to continually achieve new heights, right? So anyways, that's kind of some of the methodology that we've used. And I wouldn't say that we have it absolutely perfected today. We're pretty damn good at what we do. Our chief people officer, this is his deep expertise, is how to build high performing, constructive cultures. And so he's been a game changer for us over the last 4 or 5 years since he's been involved in the organization as well. And it's still stuff that we're assessing, on a weekly, monthly basis, as an executive team. Even, we anonymously poll our team at minimum quarterly to get their feedback on what's working and what's not, right? What's empowering their success, what is undermining their success, right? And so we're constantly assessing and then tweaking, what needs to be changed so that we can improve the experience for our people and thereby improve the experience for our clients.
So let's talk about HR and people and culture. And there's this myth of work-life balance. And you have made a public comment that work-life balance is a fallacy.
Yeah.
Unpack that for me a little bit.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, because I'm trying to still figure it out, and I tell him
You
it
and me
doesn't
both.
exist, so please tell him what the real deal is.
Yeah, obviously that title, Adam, is it's clickbait, right? But
yeah, absolutely.
it got some pretty angry responses, I can tell you. But overall, I think that particularly in leadership chairs, we have to recognize we know what we signed up for. Rarely is that a 40-hour week, right? More often than not, it's going to be a 50, 60, in really demanding industries, it's 70 or 80 hours a week, right? That's pretty norm.
So Dale shouldn't only be working 20 hours a week.
No, unless he's,
okay. Just
validating
my long-held thoughts here.
Earl, I just let AI do the rest of it.
There you go.
Yeah. It's fine. It's like 60.
If you can send me that, whatever it is, the agentic AI that you can replace you. I'd love that. Anyways, man, I totally got lost. What was the question,
Adam? Work-life balance.
Oh, yeah.
Being a fallacy. We were talking about how as a founder, you might have to work 50, 60, 70 hours, depending on the industry.
Yeah. So Gary Keller, who built Keller Williams Real Estate, in his book, The One Thing, which I think is a fantastic book, really the power of hyper-focusing, which has been another one of those things that's been part of our success at Nexus. He talks about do away with the concept of work-life balance and think of it in terms of counterbalancing, right? I do believe that, predominantly in today's work society, granted, I believe that we required and asked too much of people for a long time. Like when we were asking frontline contributors to consistently work 60-hour weeks or 70-hour weeks, like that's not fair, right? It's not fair and it's not sustainable. And you're going to burn them out. And so again, I think we're pendulum overcorrecting to, work-life balance means that I get to work anywhere, when I want, how I want, and the hours I want, which is about 10 hours a week, but I want to get paid for 50, and a commensurate comp package. And that just isn't reality, right? That, a business, in order to be able to be financially sustainable, has to have people that produce, at minimum a 40-hour work week, right? And a quality 40-hour work week. And so, in Gary Keller's, book there, he talks about, time blocking and just making sure that, like, define your roles. What's important to you in life? What do you want to do? Like, fitness, family, some people faith, or, whatever your spirituality, right? I'm a yogi. Meditation, yoga are a big part of my life. Breath work, chanting, which, people, that's a little off, kind of funky, but I enjoy chanting quite a bit. So, you got to just find those things that are like, what are really important to me? And I'm going to be very disciplined about, making sure I set aside time for those things, and I'm going to flex. And sometimes that means, we as, leaders or founders, we may have to decide our work hours outside of normal, 8 to 5, 9 to 5 work hours, particularly when my kids were younger. They're all grown up and adults now. But when they were younger, they played competitive sports, particularly competitive soccer. And I even coached like the rec soccer, leagues during the winter and stuff like that. And so there were often days I'd have to head out of the office at 2:30 or 3 p.m., pick them up from school, take them to their soccer games, right? And then I'd, we'd get dinner and all that kind of stuff. And then I'd come home and I'd work another 3 or 4 hours, into the evening. So just time blocking and figuring out, where do the things that are important to me fit in? And I'm going to take a disciplined approach about making sure that I stick to that, that sort of scenario. I think, for me, that's what creates work-life balance, is understanding, how to manage your schedule and your priorities, and counterbalancing those with each other. The expectation that I can work 10 hours a week and get paid for 50, that isn't, it's not realistic. And, there are a few people in a few industries that have figured that out. Kudos to them, right? In services, like, you have to show up for 40 hours a week and take care of the client. That's just the reality, right?
Yep.
People buy from people. That's why companies who invest in meaningful connections win. The best part? Gifting doesn't have to be expensive to drive results, just thoughtful. Sendoso's intelligent gifting platform is designed to boost personalized engagement throughout the entire sales process. Trust me, I led sales for a Sendoso competitor, and I could tell you, no one does gifting better than Sendoso. If you're looking for a proven way to win and retain more customers, visit sendoso.com.
I like the counterbalance part. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the enabling to be in a place where you can do the things that you want and like to do. There's a saying, like, my wife says this to me all the time, because I'm like, oh, I have to go do this. She's like, no, you want to go do this, right? There's that subtle like transition part of from I have to I want to, back to, deep breathing, meditation, chanting, that kind of stuff. From a mindset perspective, brings people into a place of like not feeling like this is a task, is more of like what you enjoy doing. And I think that's the other part of it. Like, when you get to a place, do you really need work-life balance if you are enjoying and doing what you like and enjoy to do? Because if you are doing that, and you find people in your organization, back to the first question on culture, if you find people that have that same passion in the place that you're going, it's going to feel less like work, and you're not going to have to convince them of this counterbalance that you're going to have to run in the organization.
Yeah, aligning people around the purpose, and again, that being inherent to them. It totally, for some people, they want to work 50 hours, right? Because they feel aligned, they feel fulfilled, they feel like they're doing something meaningful and impactful. And particularly, in the services industry, again, with engineers, most engineers are motivated by making impact, to a whole that is larger than themselves, right? That's like when you do all those strength finders tests, DISC or whatever, methodology you use, engineers predominantly want to be part of a team that makes an impact that is larger than some of its parts, right? Salespeople, and of course this is a go-to-market podcast, most, salespeople are coin operated, right? They are transaction, get the win, get the hit, get the commission. Yeah. But that isn't the way that engineers think, right? And granted, there's those who kind of are the hybrid, but engineers predominantly, they want to show up with purpose and do something impactful and meaningful. And if they feel aligned, many are willing to put in that 45 or 50 hours a week without, without feeling like they're being abused or, without it burning them out. Yeah. So burnout generally is a sign of misalignment is what it is. Like, and that's one of the things that we've really, learned over the years is if somebody's not aligned, you don't want them to be part of the organization. They're an energy drain. They're like, if they're burnt out because they're misaligned, they're sucking energy from the rest of the organism, right? And that becomes toxic over time. And so, hiring for and then managing to alignment, and everybody being, part of the vibe you're creating together is one of those secrets to creating a thriving organization, in my opinion.
I love that. Burnout is a sign of misalignment.
Yeah, I like that a lot as well. What along those lines, so like work-life balance, needing to work real hours, what are GTM leaders doing, kind of what I'll say cowtailing to this a little bit, that they just need to stop apologizing for and like get with the program?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, like if you're in a sales role, the expectation is production. Like that is your reality. And predominantly what happens within business where people are unhappy or they don't feel fulfilled or they're not hitting the mark, it comes down to a cognitive dissonance, right? Like if you're in a sales role and don't believe that you don't have to show up and do everything you can every single day to produce leads, because not all marketing or not all SDR, BDR teams are going to be able to fill your funnel all the time. So if you're a closer, you probably got to be a hunter as well, right? You got to be prospecting. You got to be, getting out there and, connecting with your network and all that kind of stuff, right? So in a sales role, you just have to connect to the reality of the role. Like I have to show up, I have to produce leads, I have to work those leads, in a disciplined manner. I need to close, and I have a quota to hit. And while I'm working those deals, I have to continue to prospect because we all know that cycle of death that, reps get on where, they prospect, they fill their funnel, they close a whole bunch of stuff, and they have this big win. And then it's this huge fall because they didn't prospect while they were working all the deals. And now they've got a quarter or two to try to, get back on track. And most of them are going to get fired, for missing a quarter or two, right? Before they ever are able to fill their funnel again. And so that discipline, in fact, I think it's the Jeb Blunt, Fanatical Prospecting, that's a fantastic book. That's like everybody in our GTM teams, that's the Bible. When you join us, here's your Bible, study it, know it, live it, right? And so I think if you're in a go-to-market role and you're just not connected to that reality of like, my job is to help grow the organization, so that, there is financial well-being within the organization that allows us to be able to service our people and to service our clients the way we want to, then you're disconnected from the reality of the role and the career, and you probably need to get out of it, right? My opinion.
Yeah.
Well said.
So
Very well said.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit. So leading from the front, even when it's lonely, is like a big thing. So you've built strong community presence, from podcasting, which is amazing because I think many founders or like CEOs, they have like this challenge with like podcasting to being on board seats. But leading from the front does have a cost. So what does that look like for you? Like what does that cost, Earl, in all that work?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dale. It is I would say a mindful commitment to wake up every day and committed to showing up as the best version of yourself that you can for that day, right? And some days that looks like you're a total rock star. Some days it looks like you want to close the door to your office and curl up in the fetal position, right? Like, that's just the truth. Like us founders, building a business is a mental and psychological and emotional roller coaster. Being the yogi that I am, I focus a lot on self-mastery, right? I focus on emotional regulation. But that doesn't mean that I'm perfect at it, right? And there are most certainly, those days where you're thriving, where you're in your groove, right? And, you're really feeling like you command, that the chair that you're sitting in and things are going really well. And there are days where you feel like the chair is way too big for you, right? You still got to figure out how to show up and lead. You got to, show how to figure out how to get centered, how to help the team feel your presence, because that can't be underestimated. Leadership presence, when the team feels, like the core leaders, particularly CEO, but then, the executive team, when they feel like there is a lack of confidence, a lack of surety or trust in the team or the mission and what you're building together, subconsciously we pick up on all this stuff. The team picks up on it. When a leader doesn't show up with presence, mastery, in command, you can bet that team is going to have challenges, right? There's going to be.
So I want to pause you, and I'm sorry, but that is the truest thing that, you've dropped a lot of things that I'm going to steal and repost and give you credit for. But if you as a leader, if you as a leader don't have the mastery, how can you possibly lead, coach? I talk about culture of coaching a lot. Coach and guide someone. Now, does that mean that I'm going to be able to do a better cold call than a BDR? Absolutely not. They do it a million times a day. But if I'm going to coach on it, should I have mastered the principles, the basics, the fundamentals, the format to be able to give them intelligible insights? Absolutely. And I think that applies to all aspects of everything that you're leading. I say often, when engineers will try to provide guidance on selling, and guidance is one thing, but try to oh, you need to sell this way. I don't know how to code. I've never been trained in how to code. You do not want me telling you how to go build your product. I'm not skilled for that. You wouldn't want me coming to your team to do that. It's the flip, right? You have to earn that cred and have that cred. So I very much appreciate that you called that out.
Yep. Yeah, and it's having confidence in the function that you're leading, right? The knowledge, the background is important, but it's more than that. It's having confidence in yourself, in the team, trust in that team. Because, gentlemen, I think that we're seeing the greatest shift in the market, in the working environment of the market that's ever happened. Right?
Ever.
Yeah. At least in, recent history that we know of over the last several years, right? Post-COVID, post-Gen AI, right? The workplace is evolving and changing, and I believe the human race is evolving and changing, right? We're looking to do business in a different way. And people who are not realigning their businesses right now are struggling. Your traditional B2B SaaS businesses that are not becoming very value aligned, they're struggling, and you're seeing it all over, right? Fire sales from VCs, down rounds that are happening, massive layoffs and that kind of stuff. I mean, we have, unfortunately, several of those stories here in Utah, that B2B SaaS that became unicorns, and over the past couple of years, have had to strip down, to a quarter of their team size. Some of them have, sold off their massive office buildings, moved out of state, or gone fully remote. We're going through a compression, stage in the market. And what I'm observing is companies who are not delivering real value are struggling. Companies who know how to deliver real value for their clients and their people, and if they can, to a broader mission of the community, are thriving, right? And that, for me, is part of this, the formula to success right now is you got to show up and do real stuff that helps people, right? That helps your client, that helps your employees. And if you're not, if you're just showing up for, the financial metrics, and boosting the EBITDA and shareholder returns, candidly, you're misaligned, and people pick up on it right now. Clients pick up on it. Employees pick up on it. They don't want to be involved with it, right? It's time to get values aligned, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree more. Let's shift gears a little bit. We're running up on time, which is always not fun. We're gonna go a little rapid fire.
Sure.
10 words or less is the goal. I say that because Dale struggles to do anything in 50 words or less. But we're gonna try here. What's one leadership quote that you actually live by? It isn't just a quote; you live by it.
Man, you did put me on the spot on that one. Pass. Let's see. I know there's one, but I'm drawing a blank, guys. Like literally pass. Let's go to the next one.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Who's a leader most people overlook but should deeply respect?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say it, but I think just in terms of somebody who has figured out how to disrupt, regardless of how they do it or not, it's Elon Musk, right? Whether you like the guy or you hate him, he's very polarizing, right? But has he disrupted? Has he shifted reality, for the market and for the modern world? Absolutely. So I would say that's somebody who's I think's been underestimated, and who's had an impact that is far deeper than any of us really understand.
What's one trait you look for that always signals a strong hire?
A personal commitment to ownership and growth. Like, in my opinion, in business, you do not thrive unless people hold themselves to a high bar. It's one of our core values: absolute ownership. Like, if you've accepted a position and the duties of that position and the deliverables of the position, it is yours to deliver on, right? And if you're not going to deliver on it, then you're not in the right chair. Nobody wants to micromanage, right? And nobody wants to be micromanaged. So we look for people who have a track record of showing up with absolute ownership, who say, look, this role, I know what's in my purview, and I will give it my best. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna always hit the mark 100%. But if I'm not hitting the mark 100%, I'm working with my manager, my supervisor, my leader, whoever, on rectifying that and how I'm going to get there for the next measured period, whatever that week, month, quarter, whatever it is. And I'm being proactive at owning where I have gaps, right? And growing as an individual. I look for growth mindset is the other piece to that, right? That is part of, our organization. One of our other core values is growth mindset. And if you, particularly in a high growth organization, if you hire people with fixed mindsets, you're constantly going to be churning those people. If you hire people with growth mindsets who want to learn and grow and challenge themselves to do it at a significant pace so they can keep up with the business's growth, fantastic. If not, they're not going to work out.
Agreed.
Last one as we wrap this one up. What's your favorite song to play on guitar? No, that's okay. What's your favorite song to play on guitar, and can you riff it for us here?
I got an acoustic back there. I'm more a bassist, actually. What's my favorite song? I really like "Come Together" by the Beatles.
Nice.
I like that bass line. Of course, I'm a '90s kid. So I grew up listening to the Flea, from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Les Claypool from Primus, who are like bass gods. And then there's guys like Victor Wooten and all those guys out there. I can't play like those guys. I'm not that talented, but "Come Together" is a great bass line. I've always enjoyed playing it. Yeah,
I love it. Good song. Earl, thank you so much for joining us on Bridge the Gap. Where can people go learn about Nexus?
Yeah, nexusitc.net, or look us up on social media, Nexus IT. Thanks, guys. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate the time.
Likewise. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah.